Okay, so I'll throw you one last thing, which
I'll have a couple that I can toss out to you too.
No, well, I mean, I was going to start to just push it a little bit more. I mean, I'm conscious that we've been talking for coming up an hour, which is good, but I'm also aware of your time. So, it's about a rematerialization, the dematerialization of things. And there's in academia at the moment, there's still it's like the Kingsley Close, there's a real belief that the digital has no material, it has no materiality, and yet there are data labs springing up to deal with data. So
the fact is, it's an abstraction that is without validity, because having this stapler in my hand does not make its functionality any more real than if it was not here. It's still what matters is not the thing, and we have to get past the thing. What matters is the transference of information. The only reason that film exists is it was a way to capture imagery and then turn it into something else that we could present. And that's what we care about. We care about capturing something to turn it into something else that we can present. The medium is not the message. It is the goal towards getting to the message itself that is what's really important. And I don't care if this box does it for me or that box does it for me. The thing that worries me is about the archive of knowledge. That's what this whole interview process, this is great, because back in a day when we could have a physical way of archiving information, nobody went around and did it. Now you're doing this, and we have an archive. We're building an archive of knowledge. But when you have a much more ephemeral method of holding information and storing it, then you start worrying about the abstraction of it. Because when Kennedy was shot, there was so many images of the day. It was considered the most photographed murder in history. And then you have other incidents that people go back to when Clinton hugged Monica Lewinsky at some presidential event. Nobody thought twice about it at the time, and all the cameramen had digital still cameras, and so they were like, well, I don't have room to keep this on my file stuff, and they threw them all away. They just erased it, and it went into the ether, except for this one guy who shot film, and so he had the negatives, and he kept it because by want of the media, he kept it. He didn't physically throw away the negative, and so he found that image, and 2 years later or whatever it was, this became something of great media value. Well, and I'm not necessarily artistic value, but you can attribute value however you attribute value. But the nature of how we store information and how we value information, the fear is that when it's in the ephemeral, when it is in a form of media that can disappear, then you become very nervous about what is the archiving of it. And frankly, even with material archives of film or of paper photographing of things or whatever it might be, there's nothing is truly permanent, and so there's archiving issues with that. So that to me is much more of a real world concern of losing our history than the philosophical argument of if a tree falls in the woods idea of, well, it doesn't actually exist in some physical manner, so therefore it doesn't truly exist. Well, you know what? It's an electrical value in photons, and there's a point where a true physicist can say that there is no true matter, there's energy, because matter and energy can interrelate. So you could say that a piece of film stock and the electrical signal are in some ways the same thing. So however abstract you want to make the argument, I would say it's a philosophical corner that is meaningless.
So basically, as long as you can provoke the flow of electrons, to reconstitute the original expression of the image, then it's a material form.
Right, because that's all that matters in the end.
Right.
Because, and frankly, when we're dealing with we're not talking about a document. What we're talking about is a visual piece of information. So it doesn't actually exist until it goes to the eyes and it reaches the brain. And we're not even talking about stills in this particular relationship. We're talking about motion. And in motion, it is a collective temporal event. So a piece of a motion picture